What the panel has recommended in general rules is that there was a specific rule in that part of the plan that said you must provide a design statement if you are lodging a resource consent that will be assessed against other design assessment criteria. It's an information request. It's about providing a standard set of information about the context of the site, about the neighbouring area. It is not about whether or not design assessment will be applied to buildings. That is a matter that we discuss in C, and you will see from the recommendations of the staff, there are a number of things that we are recommending should be changed from the panel's recommendation to ensure we get that design analysis. This is just a rule around the information you should provide, and the panel is saying if it's only about information, you should not have it as a rule. You should put it up on your website as best practice. If you want to convince an urban designer when you go for your resource consent that you have considered all the aspects of design, it's best practice to use a design statement, but the council should not be requiring everybody to do it. And my understanding of the wording we had in the notified plan was that if somebody refused to do it, that was not a grounds for us not accepting lodgement of a resource consent. Right. So it was actually an encouragement rather than we're not going to accept a resource consent lodgement.
I'm not sure. I was speaking to something that was further down the
page. No, sorry.
The
question was asked and the response was given. Now,
no, but that was
what we're
going order.
So we're going to go back to the deletion of information requirements for design. We're going to debate each of these three ones, and if out of that debate it's evident that there's a majority who want to deal with the matter by way of rejection, then we need further information that we would have to consider tomorrow to make a final decision. Okay? Right. Hang on. I want 3 speakers for and 3 against on this.
I've got a question, Mr. Mayor.
We actually had quite a good question and answer session on this one before, Councillor Wayne.
No, I don't think we did. No, my question's not been answered. I haven't had a chance to give it yet.
Okay, you got one question. Way you go.
Okay. My concern is that as much and all as this is around sustainable design, it also goes to climate change, which the panel has hacked around considerably. It goes to renewable energy, energy efficiency.
Up to the speaker.
Nothing to do.
Energy generally. And these are matters that are very significant, particularly in meeting council's obligations around climate change and government's obligations. These are matters of national significance. So it disturbs me that one of the critical tools that we have available, which is a star rating for building, it enables us to achieve that.
The wrong one.
We're not talking about that now.
Is being struck out.
Yeah.
It also goes
different
to
topic.
On the wrong page.
Page 9.
Councillor Wayne, I'm struggling to find actually what the question is. Okay.
My question is around the appropriate mechanism to cover these things off.
It's on the other issue. Next issue, Councillor Wayne, we'll do that next up. Right, I want speakers on this.
I'll speak for.
You want to speak for? For the what?
So on page 9,
Yep.
which we've gone back to, which is the design rules, I asked John before, this is an example of where the panel is trying to streamline and do away with duplication. So they have suggested that it's not the council's role to redesign a proposal, and that there are other ways that we can get good design in a proposal. And the staff have accepted that and recommend the matter and agree with the panel, and have said that this practice can be encouraged through pre-application meetings with applicants, and the council can take an active role in encouraging applicants to provide these assessments with their proposals. rather than when someone comes in with a resource consent, we say to them, we're not going to accept it until you go away and get a design, whatever it's called, design statement. So, I mean, I agree with the staff's comments on that. I think this is duplication and we should take it out.
Okay, any other speakers for? So, councillor Webster.
I have a question.
Is that possible?
Chair, Penny Webster's actually speaking against the motion,
Yeah, that's
which
right.
contemplates
Yeah.
more information before you decide to reject the panel's
That's
recommendation.
why we didn't, we
Okay,
this
right,
is
so you're
where we're
speaking
going to
against
start
it, right.
getting lost. I'm really
That's
concerned.
why we need to use the template that we've got.
We have a report. We got to that issue about 2 hours ago. There was a bit of debate and we parked it to deal with it later.
Yeah, we've heard that.
I know, and I'm going back to try and deal with it now before we get into all this that's up
Sorry,
there.
Mr Chair, a point of order. I'm sitting here quietly and I've had my hand up several times to speak. I just want us to get some clarification, and my point of order is to seek clarification from you. We had suggested at the beginning of the meeting, there's the ability for us to deal with by way of very clear recommendations, which will simply deal with is more information required or not. And the mandate of the meeting needs to be sought clearly. Are we prepared to go for more information or not? It is not necessarily a debate on the substantive issue, and I think that's where we're getting terribly, terribly confused. We need to just give a bit of a signal, for instance, on the urban design guidelines. Is this of sufficient importance to us that we want staff to go away and do the work or not? Then we will debate the inclusion or non-inclusion of that issue. You know, that for me is where we're starting to get very confused here, and I just think we need to take a deep breath and get back to that point.
Yeah, but you can't actually have that decision without debating it.
Now we're going to do
That's the
something.
problem that I've got.
It's hard.
So look, just hang on. So we've had one speaker who would like basically to support the underlying recommendation. And so are there any other speakers who would like to support the underlying recommendation?
I have a question. So the underlying one we had on page 9, which
Yep.
was to accept
That's it?
the panel's
Mr
recommendation.
Chairman, we have a motion
But
up there. We should have the right to speak to it.
I thought you
That's
gave
just
me
in
the
support
floor
of
to
it.
ask a question. So
Right.
I just want some clarification so I actually know what we're doing. So you're saying now that the recommendation that was relating to page 9 is now got this added to it? It's got some sort of amendment to it, or is that, we're not looking at that? I'm just confused
No,
because
you,
this is.
the
it is
amendment,
5.11.
it's not an amendment. What it is an,
Addition.
is a request
For more
on the
information.
basis that there is a sentiment in the chamber, in other words, that people actually don't like what is in the proposal and they want more information from the officers and they're contemplating rejecting the recommendation of the IHP, then we've got to have more information back.
Confused, Mr Chairman, because we were
Conversely-
on something else and now we seem to be jumping back and taking bits from
No,
over there.
we remember, and when we were
ahead.
going through item B, I said we will come back to a couple of issues that we hadn't concluded, we hadn't debated. Now, I did that because I thought it was important for us to keep
Before
a
we'd finished
direction.
the Building Act one.
Yep, that's right.
Mr Chairman, speaking to the
through.
point of order raised by the Deputy Mayor, I find myself in agreement with her, and my question is around the appropriate time for us to actually have a discussion around the general approach that the IHP have taken, because there are references in terms of the Resource Management Act, the Building Act. It is a departure in the rewrite of by the IHP. It is a departure, and I wonder. I support the Deputy Mayor in that if it's just a question of more information or not, it would be easier to have it in the context of the other provisions where there has been change and where there has been guidelines by the IHP and how we should interpret their recommendations. So
Yep.
is it your intention today for us to have guidance at all from
No,
the
no, look,
officers on that
not on
point?
that. Look, councillor Fletcher, we're in the middle right now of dealing with each one of the different parts of the report. We've been going through that. You can debate the general philosophical approach of the IHP, but really what we're doing is dealing with the report itself generally. Some people are raising issues about whether or not they agree with the IHP's general view, where the IHP have by and large taken on board all of our draft plan, and there are some obvious exceptions which we're working through and deciding whether or not we accept. Then I don't think that we need to be going through a long process of philosophising about the changes or otherwise. You have plenty of opportunities to deal with that. Sorry, enough. Right, now let's get back to this issue of 5.1.1. So, councillors, what we had decided, what I decided as the chair of this, is to go back to these three final items under B for a determination as to whether more information is required. That's simply it. And so we could debate that substantively, or we could actually ask just for more information. And because once we get that information, then with that information, we will finally decide whether we will change a position from the IHP and what the officers have got to say. So that's it simply, right? And so rather than overly debate it, you'll have a reasonably good idea. I mean, you've got a sentiment either for design in the plan or not. Why don't we just vote on whether or not we'd like more information, on the basis then to have a substantive debate on that issue once we've got that information back?
I just want to say something, Mr Mayor, if I could.
Yeah, hopefully, helpfully. Mike?
No, I support the recommendation. My inclination is that we should reject the panel's recommendation. However, I think there's nothing wrong with seeking more information. Yep. I just want to make a couple of points before the staff go away. This is obviously a major change to planning in Auckland and a major effort on intensification. So it's absolutely essential that we do it properly. A laissez-faire, she'll be right, open slather approach will fail, and we will rightfully be blamed for it. It's important, if we're going to do intensification, if we're going to have terrace houses and apartment buildings popping up right close to single houses, that design is absolutely critical to make it succeed. Now, the panel seems to be taking a minimalistic approach to the Act, but I would just remind members that in terms of the Act, in Part 2, that the maintenance and enhancement of amenity values is something that we should have particular regard to. And if you go back to part Section 2 of the Act, let's remind ourselves what amenity values are. Means those natural or physical qualities and characteristics of an area that contribute to people's appreciation of its pleasantness, aesthetic coherence, and cultural and recreational attributes. That doesn't mean junk city. It means something that's carefully designed and coherent. And therefore, I'd encourage the officers to go back with information, to seek more information. But I think a design approach, a design-led approach is absolutely essential, and that needs, it can't be voluntary, it can't be go and look on the website or seek our advice. It needs to be part of the deal, otherwise the deal will fail.
Okay. Hang on. So what we are now going to have a vote on is whether we actually get more information because you feel strongly enough about it.
Yes.
Right? And in getting that information, what the officers are asking us for is, express your preference, because if you ask for that, then they're going to have to do a bit of work on it. Right? So we're in effect setting up the debate. And so, Councillor Ross, you want to add something about it? You got another question or?
I want more information, but I may end up accepting the panel's thing. But and part of the information I want to know is what level of extra expense, like Councillor Webster, does this add to the process for the builder, the developer, the homeowner. That's my key bit of information that I want to know.
Yeah, look, so I think we'll each have our own various views on this, but so if we just keep it clear, if you think that we're exactly in the right place, then you won't be supporting the move for more information. If you think that we actually need to have a decent debate on this, then you'll support the recommendation for more information. All right, so it's as simple as that. Councillor Cam, I really only want to take one more and then we...
Oh, well, just on the issue of more information, Mr Mayor, to give officers a steer, I certainly think it's important that we hear this and understand the status of the independent design panel and at what threshold applications are referred to the independent design panel, whether they're reasonably significant residential and or commercial buildings or a mix of both. Traditionally, they have gone, it's not been a design, has not been a decision by council officers. The bigger applications have gone to an independent panel. And I certainly would like to understand the thresholds of when that's triggered and just how enshrined that is in our processes, because I think that would give a lot of comfort to people that even if we drop the design statement for smaller applications, if we knew that the bigger residential and commercial developments were going through an independent design panel of experts in the pre-application phase, that might help our decision.
Yep, very good. Okay, so